Adopted from the earlier Etruscans, perhaps by the way of Campania, gladiatorial games, Munra came from the need to sacrifice the living in honor of the dead.
Most gladiators were prisoners of war, bought as slaves, or criminals sentenced to serve in the schools.
3 out of every 5 people did not survive until their 20th birthday. The odds of a gladiator being killed in a particular bout, at least during the 1st century AD, was perhaps 1 in 10. But for a criminal who was publicly executed, or for the Christians who refused to renounce their faith, there was no hope of survival.
Spartacus was training at a gladiator school when he and 70 other slaves escaped with weapons and raided the countryside.
This would later change the Senate's view on armed and hostile gladiators. All of the 100 gladiatorial schools in the empire helped train and prepare gladiators for bout. The senators were not the only ones unhappy. One spectator said, "The men have no defensive armor. They are exposed to blows at all points, and no one ever strikes in vain. There is no helmet or shield to deflect the weapon. And what is the need of defensive armor, or of skill? All these men delaying death. The spectators demand that the slayer shall face the man who was to slay him in his turn, and they always reserve the latest conqueror for another butchering. The outcome of every fight is death, and the means are fire and sword. This is the sort of thing goes on while the arena is empty." There were many types of gladiators.
The Samnite wore an elaborate helmet, a wide leather belt reinforced with bands of metal, a large oblong shield, and a sword. The Retiarius were armed with a trident and a net to ensnare the opponent, and protected only by a shoulder piece on the left side. The Murmillos were heavily armed and had a helmet that had a fish-like crest. The Thrakes carried a scimitar and a small square shield.
The Haplomaches fought with a small round shield and carried a lance and a short straight sword. By AD 523, during the consulship of Flavius Ancius Maximus, tens of thousands of animals had died. And entire species were no longer to be found in their native habitats, all having been captured or driven away.
Before the great permanent amphitheaters like the Colosseum, many temporary wooden amphitheaters collapsed, resulting in the tragic deaths of thousands.
Finally, the Senate erected the Colosseum and many other great amphitheaters that we now see today.